Hi everyone, this is your tutorial of how to work with watercolours. I'm just going to introduce what you'll need. Mine are going to look a little bit different to yours, but don't worry, they are pretty much the same. So I've got my watercolour paper. I've got some of my brushes. Again, yours will be different, but I'll explain about them as we go along. I've got a pencil for one of our activities. I didn't include this in the pack, but it's not completely necessary. So these are my watercolours. They're different from yours in that yours are like squeezable out of the tubes, but that's when this lovely palette comes into work. You can put your colours onto the palette. So I've got one of my holes has some clean water, and that's going to stay clean because this one is my dirty brush water. Right, so let me just explain some basics. I'm not an expert, I'm just someone that enjoys watercolours, and I think we forget how enjoyable being a beginner can be. Learning something new is so fun. You don't have to be perfect at it. It's about practice, it's about learning, but overall it's mostly about having fun. So a lot of people are intimidated by watercolours, but you don't need to be. It's all about learning. It's all about finding what you can and can't do with them, or how you adapt. So the first thing I'm going to do is with my pencil, just draw. So you can see this. Is draw some circles. They don't have to be perfect. This is us getting to know our watercolours. So I'm going to do about 4. Right. So our brushes. So your thick brushes, the ones like these, they obviously cover more area, but say that you wanted to do a flat wash. So like if you wanted to do a sky first, you'd use one of these, get your colour and flat wash it across the whole page, and then you'd leave it to dry and build on from there. So today I'm going to use this one. This one looks a nice one for this activity. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to get our little hole with the clean water and dab, and we're going to cover our circles with the water. Be quite liberal, you can always add more. I think saying that though, with watercolours, I do find a little is because it's better to use a little and then you can build it up. So what colour am I going to? What colour do I fancy using today? Maybe I should have sorted that out first. Apologies. Right. So when you want to dip into a colour, dip your brush into the clean water. Let's go for this lovely blue colour. So I've just dabbed a little bit of water onto and this is how it comes up looking like. So that might be thicker than you want it to be necessarily. So we can dilute it with more water. Or if you want to build the pigment up, we can get a tissue, wipe our brush dry, get some more pigment on the brush, and then build up that colour. Okay, so we're going to start with the blue today. So with a clean brush, dip your thing back in the water, get the water back onto your circles. Maybe we'll do one at a time. Okay, so get your water on there. Then get your blue brush, get as much as you want, and just dab it. Just play around with it. You want to see how the water reacts with the blue. Can you see it like spreads? And if you want to build the colour up, you just add more layers. So I'm going to just clean my brush now. I'm going to add more water to this, which makes the blue thinner, but you can fill an area with it. Okay, so I'm going to dry my brush now. Now, say we wanted to experiment. Go back to your pigment paint. Let's try going around light. So your colour will fade quite quickly, which is why if you want those bolder lines, you need your brush to be dry and the teensiest bit of water on your paint, just so you can get the darker outline. Okay, so I'm just going to clean that. What if we add a different colour to this? So I'm going to go for a red. I've got some of my water, the clean water. I've just added it in the middle, a little dab, and you can see how it spreads. But, you know, play around, put more force on it, clamp down harder, or if you want to do little dots. This is just a way of practicing how the water reacts with the watercolours. So, clean my brush. And we're going to go again. Right, I'm going to say let's go quite liberal with our water on this bit. Right, so what colour am I going to go for? Green. So let's do our dabs. Obviously, because we've put more water on this one, your green is quite lighter. So we've got green on there now. Could dry our brush and pick a different colour. So I'm going to go, always remembering, if you want it to be quite thin, making sure that you have enough water on your brush when you add things to it. So now I'm adding the blue. And it creates this nice bluey green effect. Obviously you can dab if you feel there's too much water. Use your tissue, dab it, it's fine. So with your palette, when you figured out what colour you want to use, dab your brush in the clean water, dry it off, but so it's still got a little bit of the water left. Let's go for an orange. So I'm starting with the palette with a really dry, I need a little bit more water, really dry. Okay, so that's going to be quite, let's see what it looks like on the page. So it's quite a consistent colour. You know, experiment with your brushes, like going round in circles, dabbing. Let's try some dabs in this. You know, this time is for yours to experiment with. So that's our orange. If we wanted it a little bit thinner, we'd add more water to it. So you've always got more control than you think you have. Sometimes it's better off starting quite watery, letting it dry, and then being able to paint on top of it. Okay, so I'm just going to dab this dry so that I can show you. I'll clean my brush. Alright, I'm going to put some green on top. Remembering to get your clean water, wash it off the brush, get your clean water, dab it on the colour that you want, and put it on the palette. And then more water if you want it thinner, more pigment if you want it a bit thicker. So now this is dried, you can draw things on top of the orange. So it looked like a very bad orange from above. Again, experiment with your brushes. So obviously this is going to give you more control and more depth. Right, so put a bit of water. What I'm going to do some blue again. Okay. Sometimes you don't have to put it on the palette. You can just do it direct from the colour itself. So this is a thinner brush. So I've got more control with this. Obviously, you don't need to add water to the water paper at all times. It's just one way of doing it. Obviously, you can do it direct onto the page, and this is what it can look like. Really nice, thick colour. Obviously, you've got more control over. So let's start. Right, clean my brush. I'm going to go with, right, dry my brush. This time I'm going to go for a green. And I'm going to do it directly onto the paper. So let's see what would happen if I cleaned my brush and got a little bit of the clean water. Right, so it has that lovely, slightly thinner, more watercolour looking paint. So I'm going to clean my brush again. Right. I'm going to do another circle now. just use the water to the effect of how strong you want the colour to be. Right, so we've got quite a nice green colour here. So I've cleaned my brush and I'm going to dip it in some water, and we're just going to add some water. So now you can take it further. You know, you can always continue on from what you've done previously just by adding water or more paint. So I'm not adding paint now, I'm just adding water. So now, this bit now is quite nice and watery. So I dipped my brush in my clean water and I'm going to get some blue. And let's dab some bits and see what it looks like. So that's blue. Let's add some red. Oh. There's, and keep doing that with different colours. So let's go for a yellow. We can add more water if we want to. Anyway, this is, right, I'm going to rip a little bit of my paper off. And this is a technique that I've been shown. See all the lovely colours that you've got in there? You scrape it down. It creates this really nice rainbowy effect that later on you'll be able to draw on. So let's try that again. Right, getting my water on my brush. Let's go for an orangey colour this time. So I'm gonna, for this you want to make sure that you've got lots of water on your brush. So we've got our base colour. I'm going to clean my brush, get lots and lots of water on it. Let's go for some blue. Let's do our dabbing. Okay, so that's our blue. Look how beautiful it is. It goes all crystallised, it's beautiful. More water on the brush. Let's go for some red. What should I go for? Got like a nice purpley colour here. And again, if you wanted, it's just so nice seeing the colours blurring in together. You know, we often think that that's an error, but it really isn't. So let's do the scrape again. Oh, that one's less nice. Yes, I don't think, but you know, it's all trial and error. That could be like, you could use that for like an earthy colour if you were like wanted to draw sunflowers. You know, that's quite a nice colour for your sunflowers. You can obviously add colours to it. Okay, let's do, so we're going to draw two circles that are kind of entwined. So going to use this brush again. So I've cleaned it, dried it with a bit of tissue, and I'm going to just dab it. So, because I want quite like strong colour. So that is still quite weak. So I'll get my tissue, dry it again. Just quick dab, more colour. That's better. Don't be afraid of having to build up to whatever colour you want. Okay, so dab a little more, bit more wetness. I'm going to go to the blue this time, and I'm going to draw the same. So it's a little bit wetter than I want, so wipe it on the brush again. Now, do you see how they bleed into one another and create this? So let's do the reverse. The blue is the stronger one. So wipe your brush, get on the purple again. Let's add that into the blue. A bit more water, a bit more paint. We get this lovely purpley colour. So yeah, that's doing your mixing. If you've got the book, it's got a basic colour wheel that shows you how to mix your colours. But don't be afraid of the colours bleeding into one another. It's like I think it makes it really, really pretty. Okay, let's show you another technique. I'm going to use a different brush this time. Okay, and I'm going to go for a thicker one. So I'm going to show you the wash that I mentioned earlier. So say you want, this is just something that I did a while ago. So you'd want to start off with your green. So this is a thicker brush. I mean, I've got one like this. I might use this one. So it's your thicker one. So this one, you can't really use this for detail. It would be for getting the colour of the background of whatever you want to colour. So get your brush, get some water on it. What colour are we going to go for? Let's get some orange. Okay, so with your wash, you just want to be following the same direction, just going up and down or whatever. You want to work quite quickly with the wash because like you just saw, you have to go back and get more water, and that means it might be a little bit darker than what you want. So yeah, going in the same direction. So that is how you get your wash. So when you want to do more detailed stuff, that's when you go for your smaller brushes. Beautiful little teensy one. So you can let it dry. Oh, that's interesting. Dabbing your little finger. It looks like little I don't know if you can see it from there. You could imagine them as little flowers. Or it's a little effect, if anything. Anyway, so I'm going to just add some really simple flowers. Okay, so start with my water on my brush. Now I think I want these to be quite a strong colour because this is quite faded. So I'm not going to put not much water on my brush. I'm going to go for my lovely purple colour. You know, you can always experiment first on your palette to see what it looks like, whether you need more water or more paint. So this is your thin brush. So this means you can do more detail. Okay, so you can build up from that. Say you wanted thicker lines, or that's your place to build it up. Let's try a different colour. I don't have as many colour options as yourselves in your box, but let's go for a red. Okay. Needs maybe a bit more water. So that is an example of how you do your thick wash and then your tiny details on top. So now we're going to have a look at creating gradients of colour. So for that, I think I'm going to go for this brush. I'm just going to clean it. So with the gradients, it's just to show you the boldest colour to the lightest. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get a tiny little amount of water on our brush. Pick what colour we want. So this bit is we're going to want lots and lots of pigment in this. So let's start with a square. So that's quite light, so we're going to keep building that up. You know, we might want to even dry our brush a bit more. You know, you can always get a tissue and dab it if you're not happy with it. If you feel there's too much water and you want it a bit thicker. There we go, that's quite a nice thick colour. So what we're going to do, we're going to get our thicker brush and we're going to wet it, and then we're just going to drag it. And then we're going to go back we're going to build that green back up again. Because basically we want this to be like looking at the gradients. Now this wasn't clean enough when I did it before, apologies. So make sure your brush is clean, get some water and go again. Just keep going to the end of the page. So basically this is a way of showing you how dark it can be to how light it can be. It's all just about adding water or building up the paint.